Hello everyone and welcome to another video in the Chinese character phonetic series. In this video I will talk about the series that you can see on your screen, which is led by the mo title phonetic characters. So mo today means nothing or not or just general negative, and the surname mo. So there's maybe someone out there, very probably, who is called Mr. Mo, and this is how you write his surname. And this character today is sort of structured in the following way. The top of the character, this part over here, it means grass. This part over here means sun, like the sun in the sky. And this part over here means big. So we have grass, sun, and big. And I encourage you to pause the video, try to come up with sort of like an explanation as to how these three elements, grass, sun, and big, combine into the meaning nothing and not, and surname mo. And I can tell you right now that you will be wrong, because this is not how this character works. This is a phonetic loan character. And for those of you who do not know what phonetic loans are, it's basically a character that has been chosen to represent a meaning, in this case nothing not, because it sounded the same way as the word nothing not in Old Chinese, but representing something completely different. Now, this very abstract explanation to give you something more concrete, we can take actually the same word, not, in English, so the English negative not, and if I ask you, so if you could please draw something in, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 strokes that would represent the meaning not as best as you can, but just use 10 strokes because we are going to use it in writing very frequently, so it needs to be 10 or less strokes and something that accurately represents the meaning not, provided that we have a written language that is based on pictures. And it would probably be very, very, very difficult for you to do it. Now, we do have something like this symbol over here, which is sort of like this denial of entry or no entry sign, but I don't think that it would work everywhere. Like possibly yes, but you know what I'm trying to point at. So it's really difficult to use a couple of strokes to depict a very abstract meaning, especially words that are used in grammar like negative prefixes and negatives. So instead, what you can do is you can look for a word that sounds exactly the same way. And in this case, we have a very good candidate word, which is this one over here, not. And it's a word that represents a very concrete object, which is a knot. Now, I'm a terrible sort of like drawer of things, but let's try to imagine that this is a knot. Yeah, it's not really just not looking good, but this is an actual knot, and we're going to say that whenever we need to write the word not in our writing system, we're just going to agree on the fact that we're going to use this picture over here, exactly this picture. It would be terrible, but in this case, because it looks really bad, but that's what we would do. We would agree on the fact that every time you need to write the word not, you would use this picture. And so whenever you would come across the word not, you would suddenly have two possibilities. It either means the real not or it means the negative not, and you would just have to use your own judgment to determine which one it is based on context. And that's basically how phonetic loans work in Chinese. So in this character is exactly the same thing. So today this character means nothing not, but earlier it meant sort of like dim and dark, and even earlier than that, it meant a sun, like the sun in the sky, that was really difficult to see. So dim and dark. And still we are kind of like, we don't really know. If I tell you that the top part of the character is grass, the middle part of the character is sun, and the bottom part of the character is big, how this relates to dim and dark. And the reason for that is that the characters changed not only when it comes to its meaning, it changed also structurally. Now, this is the earlier version of the character, and let's call it version A, or written in script A, and this is written in script B because this was earlier. So A was earlier than B. And it actually consists of two characters. This bottom part over here is the same thing as this part over here, and it is the sun. And the top and the bottom part is actually a standalone character written in script A, something like this. Let me try to do it. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So basically, the top and the bottom combined was a standalone character, and then they separated it and inserted this sun character in between, and it meant thick vegetation. So they combined thick vegetation and sun to the meaning dim, dark, and the previous meaning, which was sun that is difficult to see. And now we have finally the sort of, it all kind of fits together, because when we have thick vegetation and we have sun behind this thick vegetation, it's difficult to see. So that is the reason for having the sun and thick vegetation together. And then in the transition into script B, and by the way, if you really want the technical terms, script A is seal script and script B is the regular script. It changed structurally as well, because the top actually is the same thing, but the bottom was replaced by a completely different character. This is formatting, the question of formatting. They used less strokes. They said we need something that is asymmetrical. We need something that is easier to write, written in less strokes. They looked for a good candidate element or a candidate character, and they found big and just replaced this bottom part of the character by a completely new element, which is of course extremely confusing, because now this character is just structurally very different, and also when it comes to its meaning semantically, it's very different. So very difficult to interpret this character if you do not know the previous version of the character, if you do not look at the previous version of the character, and you do not know what the character previously meant. So again, just to recap, the character previously meant originally sun, which is difficult to see and was formed by thick vegetation and sun. So this pointing to the meaning difficult to see. Then it was used as a phonetic loan because it sounded exactly the same way in Old Chinese or Ancient Chinese as the negative no and nothing and not. So they said, okay, let's use this character which represents sun that is difficult to see for the word not and nothing, just like we use the character, the picture for not to represent the word not, just because it sounds the same way. There's no other link. And then when they started using the regular script, they changed it, sort of the formatting as well. So there are more edges, it's more asymmetrical. And they just completely replaced the bottom element as well. So much for this character. And now let's look at the series that it is sort of phonetically leading. So there are 8 characters that I chose for this series. There are probably more, but these 8 I chose. And the most interesting character in this series is this one over here, because it has these two different pronunciations. So the first character in the series is pronounced mo, same way as the title phonetic element. You can see the title phonetic element over here, and it means solitary and silent. And the semantic element is the top part of the character over here, which is pronounced mian, and it means roof, or usually when you have this element in a character, it points to the meaning house, or anything that has to do anything with houses. And then by extension, solitary and silent, you're alone in your house and so on, or alone in a confined space and so on. So solitary, silent, and the semantic element pointing to the meaning of solitary and silent, and then mo, the phonetic element pointing to the sound. The next character, mo, desert and indifferent. The semantic element, these 3 strokes over here on the left side, it is shui, water, pointing to the meaning desert, I think, very clearly. The meaning indifferent, again, there are many possible explanations how you can arrive from the meaning desert to the meaning indifferent. But for us, the interesting meaning is desert, because it sort of explains the structure of the character to us. The next character is mo, which means to touch or to rub. The semantic element, the left part again, which is hand, shou. The next character, the interesting one, means model, pattern, has 2 pronunciations, mo and mu. And the semantic element is this part over here, again, the left side, which is tree or wood. So pattern of trees, a matrix of trees. That's why this element is here. The phonetic element, again, more. Now, the reason why this character is interesting is because, as I said, it has two pronunciations. So we have basically, it's a link between the first three characters because they share the same pronunciation and share the same pronunciation as the title phonetic element or title phonetic character has. And the second pronunciation is shared with the remainder. And the reason why I say why this is important is that if you want to prove that any of these characters over here, when the more, this big character is in them, if you want to prove that it indeed is pointing to the pronunciation and that it doesn't serve a different function in the character, which is also possible, then you have to look for these phonetic links. And one of them is, one of the proofs that you can present is that you find a character that has a double or triple, like 2 or 3 or more ways of pronouncing it, and it matches the pronunciation of the characters somehow that do not fall into the pattern. So clearly mu, which is the pronunciation of this column over here, and mo are different. But we have a character which is pronounced mu and mo at the same time, like 2 different pronunciations for this character. And clearly it's a link, it's an overlap between this character, the series of characters over here on the left side, and this character over here. So I'll just go quickly over the column of characters on the right side. This character is pronounced mu. It means curtain or screen. And the semantic element, interestingly, is not on the left side, but squeezed over here at the bottom part of the character. And it is the meaning of this element is cloth, I think is pronounced in English, pronounced bu. So curtain, screen, and the semantic element, bu, cloth. Another character pronounced mu. It means to collect, to recruit. The semantic element is over here, li, strength. Next character, again pronounced mu. It means to admire, to long for. Semantic element, again at the bottom, means or the semantic element is heart. So whenever you have the semantic element heart in a character, it points to emotions and things like that. So admire, to long for, is the reason, or the element heart is pointing to the emotion to admire, to long for in this character. And the last one, the character tomb or grave, the semantic element is tu, earth, soil. Again, a very clear link. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a comment about if you have like any questions or any suggestions. I hope it wasn't too messy and I hope it wasn't too long. And I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.